Hi everybody. Today we are going to talk about Mauritius, the preferred gateway to Africa. The webinar is going to be about Mauritius and how Mauritius can be the gateway to Africa. 大家好，今天我们会讲的是毛里求斯投资非洲的首选门户。今天我们的会讲的是我看第二个，我自己跳一下，我是在电子国际16年进入的，然后我是负责中国客户的。第一个讲的就是我们Patrick李志强，他是以前是在管理公司工作的，然后今年刚刚加入我们的天使国际。然后第二个是我们江小姐 Vanessa， 她是2020年进入 JurisTax， 她是在 JurisTax 负责中国客户的。然后最后的是王雅婷，她是在汇丰银行负责中国客户的。然后我第一个讲的是 Patrick Lee， 他会讲中国跟毛子的关系，然后怎么毛里求斯是怎么可以作为非洲的金融中心。Patrick, can you start your presentation?
Okay, good. Thank you, Cheong. Thank you for the introduction and good morning, everyone. So indeed, today we will be discussing about a very interesting topic about Mauritius being the preferred gateway to Africa. So I think there will be lots of information contained during this presentation and just during this webinar, but it's very important to start with to understand a bit of the history about Mauritius and China, especially about the diplomatic relationship between the two countries and as well between Africa as a continent and Mauritius. So just as a snapshot, I think because the official date or the diplomatic relationship between China and Mauritius started in 15 April 1972. And between these 50 years, there has been, of course, lots of things being done, lots of cooperation between the two countries. But the most salient one was, first of all, the cultural center that was established in here, as well as the Global Taxation Avoidance Treaty that was signed in 1994. And if you see over the years, Mauritius have tried to encourage this relationship between China and Mauritius by welcoming the Chinese citizens, whereby there has been no requirements in terms of visa. And recently, there has been a free trade agreement that has been signed between the two countries, whereby it facilitates trade in and out Africa, Mauritius and China. So these are mainly the main salient points, salient events that happen in here. But of course, I will go a bit more into the details now about the other sectors, events or pillars of cooperation that we have between the two countries. So as mentioned, officially the diplomatic relationship started from 15 April 1972, but it's good to understand that the start of this adventure started well before that time. It started rather in the late 1930s, where just between World War I and World War II, where in Mauritius, the British were actually occupying the island, and somehow there were opportunities in Mauritius to have businesses incorporated. So that's where people from China came from China to Mauritius with a view to make somehow some good business and to start by opening shops in Mauritius. So it started like this, and eventually, over the years, there has been some pillars that has been reached to encourage this cooperation. So the first pillar, of course, has been the cultural part of it. So in terms of cultural, the first things that has been done is the setup of this Chinese Culture Center, whereby China and Mauritius wanted to encourage Chinese culture in Mauritius. And over the years, several events were organized, such as every Chinese New Year, whereby there were shows and people from China being invited in Mauritius to perform. For example, in 2017, the Yating ballet troupe came to perform the Swan Lake. And in 2019, the Lining ballet troupe presented the Huamulan dance drama, national dance drama. And again, post-COVID, there has been always the Chinese culture being promoted. The cooperation even became even stronger because in Mauritius, there have been cities that were actually linked to several cities in China, just again to promote this culture. So as you can see, over that Mauritius, we do have a small population of Chinese residents or Chinese. This cultural part has become very important in over the years. The second part, pillars of course, of cooperation has been mainly in terms of infrastructure. As you know, Mauritius is a developing country, and we do need assistance in creating the wealth and the growth of the country. And here, China has always been supportive in different ways. Supportive in terms of financial support, in terms of grants given to the country, and also having people right from China and having the technical know-how to come on the island and to help us developing our infrastructure. Some of these examples are the Plaisance Airport, right in the 1960s, and the Bagatelle Dam in Mauritius, the new airport, which is actually known as being a gem in the African region, the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation building, the Dr. A.G. Hospital, National Sport Complex, as well as now we have the High Smart City. So when we talk about this infrastructure and development of the country, we also need to understand that it is very important that the country have a support in terms of education. And yet again, China has always been here. It's not only about the Chinese language or Mandarin, the teaching of Mandarin, but also in terms of having support, in terms of language booth, in terms of having English books or English education support in here. And this span right from in all sectors, that is one from the primary school, the secondary school. We also have a school of Chinese music, which was established in 1986. And now recently in 2014, the University of Mauritius has welcomed the Confucius Institute. And on this bit, it is the 518th institute that was opened in around the world. While talking about education, we need also to understand that sports and health are very important for a country. So again, as I mentioned, China has supported us into creating a gem in terms of a national sport complex in Côte d'Or. We do have transfer of knowledge by having people coming train in terms of table tennis, weightlifting at national level, and to promote again this sports competition. There has been almost every year, but COVID has actually reduced a bit the frequency. We did have every year the Dragon Boat race in the Port Louis Harbor, and recently in the 2020. We did have the China-Mauritius Friendship Table Tennis Competition. So as you can see, at all levels, you see into the growth on Mauritius, there has been the footprint of China in here. In terms of the health sector, what has been done and how China has helped. China has helped into setting up and building up hospitals or wings or operating theater. Taking the example of the Dr. AG hospital, which is right in the city or the island, I can say that since the building of this hospital, this has saved thousands of lives in Mauritius. And basically now we all know we have been subject to COVID. And here, China has graciously donated 100,000 doses of Sinopharm vaccine as donation to help the country in the most critical part of the pandemic. Because at that time, Mauritius being a small island, it was very difficult for us to get vaccine to fight against COVID. And China has graciously donated those doses to Mauritius. Business-wise, there has been lots of agreements that has been signed between the two countries. And Mauritius and China, the amount of trade that happens between the two countries is quite substantial because most of our items in Mauritius are imported. We don't have much, or we don't produce much in Mauritius. And if we see over the time, the imports from China is quite substantial. At the moment, it ranges between $1 billion to $0.75 billion to $1 billion. And there is also some export of product that we do in Mauritius, from Mauritius to China. And over the time, there has been agreements that has been signed, both in terms of exchange of knowledge, in terms of cultural agreement, in terms of helping businesses between the two countries. This is why, for example, we had the double taxation avoidance agreement, the free trade agreement, which came into effect as of 1st of January 2021. And there is also an agreement that has been signed and which is very, very important, especially during our conversation and especially for Africa, is that we did sign a mutual investment promotion and protection agreement between Mauritius and China. And this actually protects the investment of Chinese enterprise into Africa. In terms of the financial and economic cooperation, since a few years ago, since 2016, there has been certain incentive that has been provided to many enterprises, and especially some Chinese enterprises have taken actually stock of these advantages and has set up in Mauritius either a regional office or has come an operation in Mauritius. Some of these examples of these big institutions are Bank of China, Yihai Smart City, and the Jinfei Smart City. Huawei has also set up their regional headquarters in Mauritius. And we also have the Xiangxi Tajiangli Enterprise Group in Mauritius. A spinning factory has been set up since October 2000, which actually took advantage of the African Growth and Opportunity Act of the United States Trade Act in 2000. And basically, as you can see, the capacity of this factory amounts to 5,000 spinners with a workforce employing people of 350 people, and producing more than 10,000 tons of yarn annually. And basically, it's not only because of the economic aspects of Mauritius, but it's also because of the domestic tax rule in Mauritius that is quite advantageous. And I think later on, Vanessa will speak a bit more about these advantages. On the Mauritius side, Mauritius has also opened antennas in Shanghai, and they have been participating quite a lot into several events since 2019 up to now, and actually these are encouraging more businesses to go from Mauritius into Africa. Finally, the 2 points that I would like also to cover is the film industry and tourism in Mauritius. Mauritius has encouraged film producers to come and shoot here in Mauritius, and basically there has been a rebate, a cash rebate allowed to those producers, and which span between 30 to 40% of the total costs. And in 2014, there has been a blockbuster that has been shot in Mauritius and who had taken advantage of this tax rebate. It was The Breakup Guru, and this has earned over $300 million into the box office. And Mauritius being also an island, basically one of our sectors that are very praised is our tourism industry, and we have been encouraging more and more tourism from China. Of course, this was a success because in 2015 we actually welcomed more than 89,000 people from China visiting the island, but of course, due to COVID over the years, this has reduced. But we do hope we still have people of Chinese origin to come to Mauritius to visit the island. So we still encourage that to come, and we believe that in future, once we get over the pandemic, this will increase again. So, as you can see, over these 50 years, there has been lots of cooperation, lots of partnership, lots of business development between China and Mauritius. And I'm quite sure and certain that this can be replicated to Africa in the African region, because at the end of the day, Africa as a continent has lots of opportunities in there. And basically, this is where we need to strike, and we can actually encourage businesses between the continent and Africa. But of course, Africa is emerging. There are lots of countries and regions over that there are lots of untouched resources. This means these opportunities are here to grab, but there are certain challenges that we do face in Africa. And I think it's important to have some time. Looking at the opportunities is good, but it's also good to know about the issues that happens when dealing with Africa. And at the end of the day, how we in Mauritius, having a structure in Mauritius, can actually help to reduce and mitigate those risks. So the first core business challenge that we have today in Africa is most probably the mistake that everyone does. When we speak about Africa, we all think about Africa as one country, but it is not. Africa consists more than 50 countries, 54 precisely. And as you may believe it is that it's very difficult to have a common leadership and way of doing linking all those 54 countries. So, and basically, as you can see, the recent event that happened in Burundi, DRC, South Africa, South Sudan, show that somehow how the leadership of a particular country can affect their neighbors. So this is the first challenge that we have, is the unity of the African countries and how we can mitigate basically the risk. We cannot say that Africa with bad history cannot get over that and be a success. Rwanda, for example, has been poised by civil wars, but yet Recently, Rwanda has risen economically. It's very impressive, but yet there are other things that needs to be dealt with, such as human rights, political freedom, fair democracy. And this is what a roadmap needs to be established. We also have believed that African region, because of the violent past and with the cultural ethnic segregation, civil wars, that it is somehow, there's this perception that there's a level of insecurity. Here, what I need to say though, is it's just a perception. It might be true in certain regions of Africa, but it's not all Africa. And this is where, again, we tend to make this mistake of, because of a few regions, we tend to say and put Africa as being very insecure and very risky. So if we had to go into Africa, we had to change this perception that yes, there can be certain issues into some African region, but it's not all in this region. The other challenges that we do face in Africa, and this is at government level, is the different monetary policies and economic stress that happens. In some countries, there are exchange controls, such as South Africa. There were strict exchange control rules. We do have rising inflation in certain countries, Mozambique. We do have Zimbabwe has increasing and very surprising high inflation rates. And we do also have a rising public debt. And what happens is that each government now will put on their own policies or change the monetary policies from one day to the other, just to be able to resolve those situations. Like Mauritius, we had the same situation in many African regions. We do have some education and technical know-how issue. For example, from a recent study in 2019, the African Union Commission and UNICEF noted that more than 105 million primary and secondary school children were out of school. And this actually represents 41% of the population. So can you imagine? We have Africa that needs to be developed. And we need also the core of it is the human resource, the knowledge, how to do it. And this is what is missing. And this is where the gap needs to be filled in here. Right from the beginning, it will take time to be able to arrive to a certain degree. There has been improvement, there are lots to do, but the infrastructure, the technical know-how, the development needs to happen now to be able to support this education. So this is where Africa needs help in terms of financing, yes, but also in terms of technical know-how. How do you do it? How do you, for example, efficiently extract minerals without creating more pollution? Because there are ways that you can do mining using explosive. Yes, it's fine. But there are other ways that you can do it, but they don't have this technical know-how. As the development goes, with the development of education, as we say, the main source of growth of a country, there should be also the proper infrastructure, the proper roads, the proper financing to build bridges, dams to feed the population. So as you can see, these are where it's difficult for African countries to actually attract investors, is because of the perception of Africa being violent, being dangerous, being not safe for the investment, or appropriation of the business by the government, that is nationalization. It's very difficult to get the financing in here. One example is Mozambique. Basically, they wanted to develop, farm to create electricity, the infrastructure, but unfortunately, no banks were wanted to finance Mozambique directly because the grading of Mozambique was as a default. So how can you then develop the country? You want to develop the country, you want to make the country evolve, but no one wants to help, mainly because of certain ratings that you have. So this is an example, particular example of how a country, African country, wants to develop, but cannot, and where Mauritius has been here to actually assist into this financing arrangement, which has allowed the build-up of this electrical plant in Mozambique. Linked to that, we were talking about financing. Banking is quite difficult in the African region. Some of the banks, for some businesses, it's quite difficult to open a bank account within Africa, because even the banks, some of the banks are not sophisticated. You will get local banks. Some international banks are not interested in the African region. So this is another challenges for African countries. We have seen over certain challenges for Chinese enterprise building their business into Africa. And the first thing is the cultural ties. So the culture is different, the mindset is different. And somehow, if the government, they don't prepare the citizens about the arrival of or the implementation of Chinese enterprises, some citizens, some people, the population sees the Chinese enterprise as invasive in here. And this is a culture that actually needs to be fostered and to make them understand that it is not the case. And being through Mauritius, somehow Mauritius being through Africa, it has shown that it is a bit more accepted and somehow understood over the time that it is not the case. The ease, of course, the political, legal risk involved, because as I mentioned, there can be nationalization of the company at some point of time. We do have exchange control where money has been sent to some African region, and it's very difficult to take them out. But yet we do have certain solutions, as I mentioned, through the investment protection and promotion agreements that have been signed between Mauritius and China, but also Mauritius and several African countries. And we do also have the international arbitration in Mauritius. And finally, the over challenges that some Chinese entities find in Africa is mainly the language issue, because somehow Africa is separated between different regions, and basically the East Africa, mostly English, and the West side, which is French. We do have a problem of education in Africa that needs to be resolved, and the lack of qualified workforce. So as you can see in here, there are opportunities, yes, involved, but there are also certain challenges that if a Chinese enterprise go directly into this African region, they might face. And this is where Mauritius plug in. Mauritius have been developing its financial business for quite some time. We all think that the offshore, the financial services started with the offshore activities in 1992, but it is not really the case. In fact, Mauritius already started has a financial center since the 17th century, when it was used as a regional and settlement hub by traders from the West, the Middle East, India, and China. So, so this has always been the case, and In 1992, with the declining industry of textile and sugar in Mauritius, the government decided to enforce and decided to take advantage of the different double taxation treaty agreements that has been signed between several countries within Africa and around the world. And since then, we kept on developing this, being more sophisticated by offering tax-efficient structures, structures that could help businesses to gain new market. Because, for example, there are certain infrastructure work that a company can bid into Africa, especially government contracts, whereby it is specifically required that the company is in an African country. So, just imagine since 1992, we have been developing our reputation, and now since 2016, we have been now seen known as an international center, which is transparent. Because at the moment, Mauritius is the 6th country to satisfy the 40 recommendations of the FATF in terms of compliance, in terms of business requirement, which gives somehow investors this comfort that their business will be seen as being compliant and clean and they can actually give confidence to over jurisdiction that business can be done with this country. We have always been striving to facilitate doing the business in Mauritius. So basically, at the moment, we are first in ease of doing business with the African region. And if we compare it worldwide, about 190 countries, we are 13th. And again, what has also encouraged Mauritius to become this international financial center is the political stability that we have. We are known in Mauritius to be the longest democracy country, having the longest democracy with free elections every 5 years. And this actually gives again comfort to investors to be able to develop their business. Other reasons why Mauritius has been able to become this IFC is because of the tax regime in place. We do have a clear domestic tax law, and also several double taxation avoidance agreement that has been signed here, which gives clarity, and especially when we talk about dealing with Africa and other countries. Every time it's very important that people know exactly all the tax aspects. Where is the tax base? Where are we taxed? Are we taxing the country of origin? Are we taxing Mauritius? Or are we taxing the country of source? So this in itself has enabled Mauritius to get this status of IFC in Mauritius. The other thing that has been very important to us in Mauritius is the strive to success and to have a skilled labor. We have in Mauritius skilled labor with people speaking English and French, but also being qualified from UK, from Australia, from even China and US. So basically, this gives the potential to the Mauritius as a financial center to develop. I did mention also that we have being part of Africa access to all the African associations, the major one, which is the African Union, the COMESA, which is the Common Market for Southern and Eastern Africa, and also the South African Development Community, SADC. And basically, this being part of Africa and part of this association actually allows Mauritius to have direct government-to-government discussion and a framework to cooperate within the African countries. Finally, points that makes Mauritius also as an international center is the geographical location of Mauritius, which is right in the middle of the Indian Ocean, with 4 hours from China, and actually 2 to 3 hours between to the African market, and this actually helps to somehow to reduce the gap between operation and make operation more swiftly. What we say as an international financial center is all about legislation. Here in Mauritius, we have evolved a lot and reviewed the legislation quite often, and all the up-to-date laws we compliant with almost all organizations, international organizations that requires us. And we do have an international arbitration right in Mauritius in case where there are disputes in terms of investment in the region. And finally, in terms of agreements, we have recently signed the free trade agreement with China, as mentioned, but also have agreements with AGUA, the COMESA, SADC, with lots of advantages in here to develop the partnership, which actually Chinese enterprise can take advantage of. So I know it's quite interesting. It's quite an interesting topic, and it does have a lot to say. But I tried to condense it into quite 15 to 20 minutes into this presentation. But yet, as I said, there are lots of opportunities within Africa. But the most important thing to understand is we need to see how then we need to structure the entities that you want to create, and how you'll be able to get the most advantageous points of this opportunity. So I will now leave the floor probably to Vanessa, who will give a bit more information into the detail and then how we can do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. 非常感谢 Patrick 和 Cheong 的介绍，同时呢，也非常开心能够跟汇丰银行和天职国际共同举办本次的网络研讨会。然后我今天的主题呢是通过毛里求斯这个国际金融中心，在非洲进行投资。然后最近几年呢，确实有很多的中国人通过毛里求斯在非洲国家进行投资。而毛里求斯为什么是一个具有吸引力的一个国家？刚刚我的同事 Patrick 有提到，毛里求斯呢是一个非洲国家，位于2大洲，亚洲和非洲之间。跟新加坡相同的地方是，新加坡在亚洲是非常受欢迎的一个国家，而在非洲呢，毛里求斯呢是投资者首选的一个国家进行投资。下一个呢是。刚刚同样 Patrick 有提到，毛里求斯的人口是有受过高等教育的一个人口。毛里求斯的母语是克里奥语，同时呢，人们都是精通英语和法语。印度人是可以讲印地语，和部分的华人是同样可以讲汉语。毛里求斯的政治是比较稳定的，而且犯罪率比较低的一个国家。很重要的一点是，毛里求斯的基 基础设施是很现代化的，而且有非常完善的本地和国际的银行机构，比如说汇丰银行在毛里求斯也有好几家。毛里求斯呢，一直以来是跟很多国家有签订投资保护条约以及避免双重征税的这个协议。毛里求斯在最近几年对洗钱以及资助恐怖主义的这个行为是非常的看重。最后为什么会选在毛里求斯投资呢？是刚刚 Patrick 同样也有提到，中国人一直从19世纪以来一直都是在毛里求斯，而毛里求斯和中国都是有保持良好的关系。我们的祖先Cheong和我自己都是在毛里求斯的第3代华裔。毛里求斯为什么跟其他的国际金融中心的区别是在哪里？毛里求斯具有一个具有吸引力的一个税收制度。毛里求斯的税率是很低的一个税率，0%、3%或者是15%的一个税率，而毛里求斯的个人所得税同样也是很低的，是15%的一个个人所得税。但是如果一个人的收入超过300万毛里求斯卢币的时候呢，这个人要额外再交一个25%的一个团结税。毛里求斯呢是没有外汇管制的，而且可以是100%外国人所有。比如说，如果一个外国人想要在毛里求斯成立一家公司的时候，他是可以占100%的股份。跟前几年的迪拜相比，当要在迪拜成立一家公司的时候，是要找一个迪拜人占51%的股份，而这个投资者只占49%的股份。所以在毛里求斯是100%的。毛里求斯呢是同样也没有资本利得税。比如说，如果一个投资者是打算出售自家公司，或者是打算购买一家公司的时候，这边是不会征收资本利得税的。同样，在毛里求斯以分红的形式，或者是利息，或者是特许权使用费的时候，这边从毛里求斯出去的钱都是0%的一个预扣税。在毛里求斯也很重要的一点是，在毛里求斯没有最低资本要求。除了金融服务以外，这边是没有最低资本要求的。下一步呢是同样也很重要的一点，在毛里求斯，如果一个投资者想要在毛里求斯成立一家公司，或者是进行开户的时候，这个投资者是不需要亲自到场。这个人可以在中国或者是在世界的某一个角落，同样是可以在毛里求斯成立自己的公司以及开户。毛里求斯跟46个国家有签订避免双重征税的这个协议，而跟十多个国家有签订投资保护协议。刚刚我们提到了避免双重征税的这个协议，这是为了避免或者是消除双重征税。毛里求斯跟46个国家有签订这份协议，其中呢是跟21个非洲国家签订了这个协议，比如说有刚果、埃及、加纳、马达加斯加、纳米比亚、卢旺达。这些国家都是经常，投资者会在这些非洲国家进行贸易，而毛里求斯是唯一一个国家跟非洲国家签订的这个协议，毛里求斯是最多的。下一步毛里求斯有跟10个国家有签订投资促进和保护协议，比如说马达加斯加、摩桑比克、刚果、南非、赞比亚等等非洲国家，还有14个国家我们现在还在等待批准。 这些国家呢都是中国人投资的，经常会投资的非洲国家。这个协议重要在于重要在于投资者的投资可以得到一个非常好的保护。当一个投资者在毛里求斯成立一家控股公司的时候，这个控股公司同时在毛里求斯的同时在其他非洲国家有成立自己的子公司。当在非洲成立的一个子公司的时候，因为有这个协议的存在，所以这个投资呢，它并不会容易的被没收。下一步呢，我们可以看到一个表格。我们可以看到一个表格，然后也是投资者经常会在这些国际金融中心，比如说迪拜、香港、英属维尔京群岛 BVI 和开曼群岛，尤其是包括毛里求斯，在这些国家一般都会通过这些国家进行贸易。比如说现在毛里求斯的现状呢，毛里求斯的企业便利度是排名13，迪拜是16，和香港是第3名。而同样也很重要的一点，在 FATCA、CRS 和 FATF 这些标准呢，毛里求斯、迪拜、香港、BVI 和开曼都是合规，都是合法的。同样这些国家是没有外汇管制的。唯独只有毛里求斯跟非洲国家签订的条约是比任何其他国家多得多。毛里求斯跟其他21个非洲国家有签订税务合约。毛里求斯的企业税率刚刚有提到是0%、3%或者是15%。迪拜、BVI 和开曼是0%，而香港呢是0%或者是16.5%。在税收资本利得税、利息、股息预扣税和利息预扣税这边全部都是0%。唯独只有毛里求斯，在毛里求斯成立一家公司的时候是有额外的国外税收优惠的一个政策，80%的一个优惠政策。在结构方面呢，毛里求斯和其他的国际金融中心都可以是100%外国人所有的一个股份。但是在毛里求斯为什么说需要和不需要挂名董事？因为毛里求斯有2类离岸公司，一个是授权公司，另外一个是 GBC 公司。而授权公司呢是不需要挂名董事的，而 GBC 这一类呢是需要2名挂名董事，而其他的香港、迪拜、BVI 和开曼都不需要挂名董事。也很重要的一点，这些国家、这些国际金融中心的最终受益人的信息是不会被公开的。而且在毛里求斯以及其他的国际金融中心，当成立公司以及开户的时候是不需要亲自到场，但是只有迪拜需要在开户的时候是需要股东或者是董事在场才可以开户。下一步呢，有2张图是给各位看一看怎么通过毛里求斯在其他的非洲国家投资。比如说，如果有一个中国客户，有一个中国投资者通过毛里求斯在乌干达，比如说乌干达进行贸易的时候，在乌干达那边所获得的收入，扣除30%的乌干达企业税率之后，还要扣除15%的预扣税。但是因为乌干达和毛里求斯之间有签订避免双重征税的这个协议，所以 有一定的税收优惠，所以从15%降低到10%，所以扣除了30%的企业税率之后，还需要再扣再扣10%的一个预扣税。当这个资金到了毛里求斯的银行账户的时候，从毛里求斯这边出去的钱是不需要再交预扣税，所以从毛里求斯这边出去的钱是0%的一个预扣税。另外一张图也是，如果一个投资者通过毛里求斯在摩桑比克进行投资的时候，在摩桑比克的收入扣除摩桑比克32%的企业税率之后，当要把这个钱以分红的形式汇回到毛里求斯的时候呢，还要再交20%的一个预扣税。但是摩桑比克和毛里求斯有签订避免双重征税的这个协议，所以这个预扣税从20%降低到8%的预扣税。交完了8%，在摩桑比克交完了8%的预扣税之后，这个钱到毛里求斯，然后这个钱还要从毛里求斯汇回到中国股东的时候，从毛里求斯出去的钱是不需要再交预扣税的。下一步是一个案例，比如说，当我们从乌干达这边我们获得的收入，比如说是20万美金，然后我们扣除所有的开支，开支是10万，最后剩下的利润是15万美金。在这15万美金里面，还要交30%的乌干达企业税率之后，剩下的是10万多美金。在这10万多美金还要汇回到毛里求斯的母公司。当汇回到毛里求斯的母公司的时候，在乌干达那边还要扣10%的一个预扣税。但是，一旦前9万多美金到达毛里求斯的时候呢，这全部的9万还可以全额汇回到中国股东。跟新加坡和香港相比的地方呢，是新加坡和香港跟乌干达没有签署避免双重征税的这个协议，所以还是要照样支付15%的企业税率，而这边毛里求斯只需要支付10%的一个预扣税。下一步，刚刚我们提到毛里求斯最近几年对洗钱以及资助恐怖主义者是非常的看重的这个行为。毛里求斯呢最近几年是比较不能接受的一点，所以在成立公司或者是在毛里求斯开户的时候，毛里求斯政府是有跟投资者需要索取一些信息，比如说如果一个公司的股东是一个自然人的话呢，那我们这边是需要向自然人和董事索取他们的护照以及地址证明，这个地址证明不能超过3个月的一个地址证明。然后我们还需要从银行那边拿到一个银行资信证明、简历以及资金来源证明。如果这个股东是一个公司股东的时候，那我们还需要索取更多的一些信息，比如说公司注册证，还有良好资格证书。如果有公司章程的话，公司章程也可以提供。最重要的是资金来源证明以及股东或者董事的名单的清单，这个是我们这边都是非常需要的，成立公司以及开户的时候。 最后介绍一下JurisTax 我们这边是做什么的。其实 JurisTax 是2927年的时候就已经成立了，当时我们的服务呢是做法律咨询的，提供了我们的法律咨询之后呢，我们的客户还需要到我们现在所说的管理公司去注册他的公司以及去开户，所以我们当时想，为什么不自己？因为我们自己有这个能力去做这个事情，所以在2008年的时候就成立了一家管理公司。目前来看，我们公司有200多名非常优秀的员工。在任何领域，合规部或者是会计部或者是国际部都是有非常优秀的员工，而我们的客户群已经达到了2000多个客户。我们大一点的目标呢，是希望能够扩大到全世界，比如说能够全球化。我们目前的总部是设在毛里求斯，但同时在塞舌尔、卢旺达、迪拜、南非、新加坡都有自己的子公司，在中国和欧美国家都是有自己的代表处。然后呢，我们的服务呢都是包括成立公司、基金会和信托，然后还可以帮助客户去进行银行开户，之后还可以申请各种的牌照。同时，之后呢，我们还提供行政、会计、公司秘书等等服务，只要跟企业相关的服务，我们这边都能提供。从最小的，比如说拟一份合同，到最后，如果一个公司要关门，还需要经过一系列的程序，我们这边也可以提供一条龙或者是一站式服务。最后，如果你们有任何其他的问题的时候呢，可以在右下角扫描我的微信二维码，就可以通过微信问你们的问题。非常感谢。
好的，接下来谢谢 Vanessa， 接下来由我介绍一下 Mauritius 配套的银行服务。从汇丰集团层面来讲，汇丰是全球最大的银行及金融机构之一。我们通过3大环球业务：财富管理及个人银行、工商金融、环球银行及资本市场，为约4000万名客户提供服务。我们的业务网络遍及欧洲、亚洲、中东、非洲、北美和拉美，覆盖全球63个国家和地区。汇丰自1865年在香港创立以来，一直致力于服务中国市场。当时在为欧洲、印度和中国之间日趋频繁的贸易往来提供融资服务。讲到在中国地区的业务，汇丰在中国业务已经开展超过了15年。汇丰中国于2007年正式开业，是一家本地注册的外资法人银行。汇丰中国已经在内地50多个城市设立了约150个服务网点，是内地网点最多、地域覆盖最广的外资银行。讲到汇丰在毛里求斯的业务，汇丰在毛里求斯已经运营超过了100年的时间。我们为个人和企业提供广泛的银行服务。自上世纪90年代以来，毛里求斯开始积极发展离岸金融服务之后，汇丰一直积极服务于来自全球各地的离岸客户。汇丰在毛里求斯同时拥有子行和分行的双牌照，所以我们在毛里求斯可以享用集团的信用评级。Next slide。我们可以为客户提供的主要产品和服务为环球资本管理、环球贸易融资、信贷、环球资本市场及证券服务。接下来的几页我会为大家详细介绍我们的主要提供的一些产品。环球资金管理是汇丰为客户提供的本外币境内外一体化的环球服务方案，业务覆盖包括卢比及其他14种外币的账户管理、收付款管理、资金归集、外汇等。对于卢比账户，我们还可以提供小额 ACH 付款、 主要是用于企业批量代发薪、大额卢比的实时转账、政府付款缴税以及支票业务。汇丰财资网是我们对客的网银平台，不仅可以用于日常的收付款、追踪付款进度，还可以用于跟踪贸易交易情况。我们也可以实现银企直联主动推送，或者是 SWIFT 直联交互等多渠道实现自助式服务。汇丰毛里求斯的资金管理业务一直以来都被客户高度认可。我们在过去的10几年里，在资金管理方面一直是在毛里求斯排名第一。讲到托管业务 ，Next slide please。汇丰托管业务覆盖12个国家和地区。我们的 AA3 目的评级是我们成为市场上评级最高的托管代理机构之一。我们可以为客户提供资金托管或者是资产托管，主要用于并购、合资、贸易及融资的全面解决方案。最近涉及中资企业的案例，主要是为中资企业收购非洲矿产的时候，为了保障交易安全，会在交易开展前开立托管账户。讲到环球资本市场业务，我们可以为客户提供极具竞争力的外汇报价、即期和远期结售汇。我们交易所有的7国集团货币以及众多新兴市场货币，包括离岸人民币、卢币、泰铢和南非兰特。市场财资管理业务管理银行的流动资产，并且提供多种货币长期或者短期的存款利率报价。所有的客户外汇交易都可以通过我们的电子外汇平台 Evolve 实现。Next slide。贸易融资方面，我们可以提供30多种贸易融资产品，主要涉及中资企业的产品有国际贸易结算、信用证、托收、代收、贸易融资、供应链金融和当地中资企业需求较多的保函业务，包括投标保函、履约保函、预付款保函以及劳务保函等。贸融相关的交易都可以通过我们的汇丰财资网随时随地进行交易，并获得实时的交易账户信息。我们也可以为客户提供即时通知服务，在交易的每个阶段及时更新状况，并通过邮件通知客户。汇丰贸易金融的优势在于我们广泛的遍布于全球63个市场，业务覆盖全球 GDP、贸易和资本流动90%的市场和地区。还有汇丰一直不断的加大数字化的投资力度，为客户提供更为简便的操作平台。Next slide。证券服务方面，我们主要是直接托管和结算分为境内和境外2个市场。境内市场是用于毛里求斯上市的公司，如果企业在毛有上市打算的话，我们可以之后详细了解一下。Next slide。Next one please。在汇丰毛里求斯开户主要有2点的要求，一是因为集团政策，我们需要客户在母公司层面已经成为汇丰的客户，并且已经有集团客户关系。二是我们就是说要推动客户尽量使用这个电子化的平台，所以客户必须要使用汇丰财资网。接下来我给大家介绍几个涉及中资企业的案例。第一个提到的案例是业务流程外包。毛里求斯政府在近几年来一直鼓励离岸客户在毛里求斯设立区域总部和地区的财资平台，用来归集和管理在非的投资和业务。我们客户包括一些大型的中资电信公司，他们把涉及非洲和中东的交易、财务、人力资源以及其他的后台部门都集中在毛里求斯管理。毛里求斯的网银平台可以管理其他地区的账户，所以客户只需要登录一个平台就可以管理所有汇丰的账户。下一个案例是汇丰是涉及我们的基金客户。Next slide。汇丰在毛里求斯有大量的国际知名基金客户，他们选择在毛里求斯设立基金结构，主要是因为毛里求斯有健全的法治体系以及完善的配套服务，包括我们今天其他的2位主讲人代表的公司 JurisTax 和 Baker Tilly， 毛里求斯有大量的专业管理公司、会计师事务所、律所等专业人员。同时，我们处于这个东四区，在一个工作日之内，我们可以和全球所有的主要市场进行交易。由于基金交易的时间敏感性，汇丰可以为客户提供端到端的交易追踪服务以及汇兑的业务需求。今年包括我们还实现了给基金公司提供中期的一个融资。我们讲到下一个案例是绿色融资。汇丰近年来一直致力于推动绿色经济的发展。我们承诺在2023年之前提供7500亿到1万亿美元，支持可持续发展融资和投资，协助企业推进减碳目标。讲到中资公司的案例，就是今年我们有接触到一些风能和太阳能的客户，他们在毛里求斯设立的离岸公司不仅作为简单的控股或者是贸易平台，同时可以在毛里求斯进行项目融资和贷款，享受毛里求斯较低的一个融资的成本。我们讲到下一个是中毛的合作关系。之前 Patrick 已经给大家从多个方面进行了详细的介绍，其中近年来的主要亮点是2021年中毛自贸协议的签署。中毛承诺最终实现零关税的产品税务比例为96.3%和94.2%，双方均享受国民待遇。讲到在毛里求斯的一些中资企业，主要是为建筑施工的企业。我们从银行的角度，不仅从日常的现金结算、员工发放人民币工资直接回国，我们还可以给企业提供各类的保函业务，以及就是采购相关的一些信用证和贸易融资等产品。汇丰的介绍就暂时到这里，大家如果有问题的话，可以在这里探讨一下。
谢谢雅婷，谢谢Vanessa，然后thank you Patrick for the presentation. If anybody has some question, they can email us because we are out of time. 如果有谁需要有其他问题的话，可以发邮件给我们，然后我们会回复你。好了，今天就结束了，谢谢你们参加，拜拜。